morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay. Yes. So we're trying something new today for the user group meetings. We're going to be streaming them. So we do have a microphone in the middle of the room. So later on when we're sharing tips and tricks, we'll be asking that you go up to the microphone so those people who are joining us remotely will be able to hear the questions and then the tips and tricks as well. And also be aware, there's a wire running here, so be careful as you're going in and out of this aisle. For the people who are joining us remotely, all the documents that have been provided today will be blasted out later on a SwanCom later this afternoon or early evening, and they'll be posted on the website as well. Okay? You will notice I put the wrong time on the agenda. You're all here at the right time. Luckily, it was only on the paper copy. So we will be meeting from 9 to 11, and then the Serials user group meeting is scheduled for 11:15, correct? Okay. So we're going to have plenty of time later on to discuss questions that you have, sharing tips and tricks, concerns that you might have. First, I want to go in and share a few updates on some procedures we have and that sort of thing. So there'll be plenty of time later. I just wanted to let you know that. Did I forget anything about the streaming, Kate?
Sorry?
Did I forget anything about the streaming that I was supposed to share? Okay. Okay, those attending remotely can type in the questions, and we have someone here who will be sharing the questions with the group here. Okay, so first of all, we want to discuss this pre-CAT document. And actually, I need a copy of the other one. This is this one right here that everyone should have gotten when they arrived. So, as we discussed in our previous training sessions, we thought there'd probably be some things we discovered as we started learning the new system that might need to be tweaked. So we have discovered that in order to better serve the patrons and in order to better have workflows function for staff as well, we're going to be making a few tweaks to our pre-CAT entry standards. So you have a document here. I'm going to highlight what the changes are. There's also going to be pre-CAT training sessions, which you all have probably seen the SwanCom, and that's really the target audience for that is some people who are newer to the library, maybe haven't created a lot of pre-CATs. People who feel they need to brush up are welcome to attend as well. Those of you who've been creating pre-CATs for years, you feel confident, you'll just be able to adjust these changes into your workflow. We currently have 3 classes available. One of them still does have space in it for the pre-CAT training, but we certainly can add more sessions if there's more of a demand, okay? So what I want to highlight on here, and again, this revised document will be posted later today, as well as sent out by SwanCom. I will also be changing those brief templates today, the one that when you use the Add Title Wizard, it pops up with the fields filled in. I'll be adjusting those later today. I just didn't want to do it last night and have people log in this morning and wonder what was going on. So highlighting the changes, we want to enter the 10-digit and the 13-digit ISBN. The reason for this is because with this ILS, it doesn't automatically flip over and search the other number. So this is going to be better for you all when you're trying to determine if there's a matching record in there, okay? So we would ask that if you have that information, please enter both of those numbers. The author is going to remain the same as how you were entering it before. Now, if you recall, when you're creating pre-CATs, we don't make you follow strict cataloging as far as all the indicators and that. There is one thing that we're going to highlight later that does involve an indicator, but we're not making you do full-blown cataloging as far as the indicators go, okay? So with the author, again, you'll enter the 100 just as you were before. The title, this is where we're going to have a change. So for the title, we weren't putting any indicators in before. We're going to need to start putting in the non-filing indicator, which will be the second indicator. So if you look in your document too, we have samples of this, where we have 0 for the first indicator, and then the second indicator will be 0 if there's no article, like if there's not the, and. If there is the, for example, you need to put in a 4 so that the system knows and that space, okay? You weren't required to do that before, but what we've discovered is that with Enterprise, there's an issue with Enterprise where if someone types in, for example, the Green Mile, and pretend the Green Mile is something new, so there's only a pre-CAT, and the pre-CAT had been created as Green Mile, they won't get a result because it doesn't know to skip that article. So, you know, ideally, it's going to skip those articles in the future, but we don't have a date for that enhancement, so we're doing this to enhance the patron searching experience, okay? So that's the one change. Add the article if there's an article that exists in the title. We decided to just have you put in 0 for the first indicator, just like as a holding place, because it's easier than trying to skip around in that little field where you put the indicators. So you can just put a 0 for everything in the 245. We've tested it extensively, and it enables you to search both in workflows and in enterprise for the titles. So it would either be 00 or 04, for example, if the title has the. So does that make sense to everyone? Okay, great. Thank you. We also want to make sure that we're being more specific about the standard numbers that we're putting into the records. We used to be kind of free and easy with it, and in the 020 you could put any type of standard number. Well, we've found now that we're using SmartPort, we need to be a little more specific so that when SWAN staff and the cataloging libraries are bringing over the full records, they have some more exact match points. So what we ask is that you use the 020 for the ISBN, 022 for ISSN, 024 for the standard number or UPC, or 028 for the manufacturer's number, instead of putting any of those in an 020. So this is what I'll be updating in the template later today. So when you open it tomorrow, let's say, because it might not happen until later tonight, when you open it tomorrow, it'll have all these fields as an option. And then if you don't have anything to put in those fields, just skip it. A lot of this other is the same as we originally did in the training. Am I forgetting something, bib services? Yes. Right, the only thing that we are requiring you to put indicators is the 245 field to take care of those articles. The rest of the tags, you don't need to worry about indicators. That'll all come over properly when we bring over the full records. Yes?
With the title, would it be easier just to tell everybody to omit those initial articles and have the default for 245 be 00?
The problem with omitting the articles is when a patron or public services staff searches, say, the pinch, or whatever the pinch, and say the pre-cat just says pinch, they won't get a result in enterprise. Because enterprise does not skip that article. It doesn't know to skip the article. So that's...
And I know many public service staff have been searched by the because they know that it's something
patrons as well. I mean, I'm adding public services. No, I mean, we've had a lot of feedback about this, and this is why we're implementing it. There have been a number of patrons who've been frustrated by, 1 second, Claudia. They may be looking for something that's not being published for a while, so there's a pre-cat in there, and they search with the article, and they're like, I wanted to put a hold on this, but I can't find it. So that's what's driving this, just a better patron searching experience. Yes, Claudia?
Is there going to be a retro to all those stuff we have right now, or are we just starting?
We're just going to start now because these are only pre-cats, and those are eventually going to get overlaid. So yeah, there's going to be that period where we have a combination of them. Okay. So those are really the highlights of what we've changed for the pre-cats. So it's nothing too stressful there, I don't think. When you go back and you start creating them and you have any questions, please feel free to contact bib services. We can walk you through it. And again, there's those training sessions available if you feel that's something that you'd be interested in. Does anyone have any questions on the pre-cats? Yes?
I noticed that in Olivia, when you were doing a pre-cat, there was a duplicate record that would pop up. You don't get that in workflows.
No.
It's very frustrating that, because you don't know if you're doing this pre-cat, it actually is a record.
It's a different ILS, and it works differently. And that's why we want to do some of these things, like make sure we put the 10 and the 13 ISBN in there so you have a better chance of identifying that there's already an existing record. We did ask if there was any way to make it work that way. It's just not how the software is built, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on pre-cats? Okay, thanks everyone for being flexible about this. It's going to provide a better patron experience, so. Okay. On to I-types. So as you all have been hearing for a while, item types are very different in workflows than they were in Millennium. So, they should reflect the format of the materials. That's really the direction that we need to move in, just the way they've been set up, and just for future data. When we brought the data over, there were a lot of reasons why people were using different item types that might not reflect the format. A lot of it was just due to limitations of Millennium. So it was not, that anyone was cataloging them incorrectly. There were just times when we had to provide a solution and say, you need to use special collections, because that's what you need to do to be able to circulate the item that way. Now we want to move towards standardizing this. And I've been hearing this a lot from libraries, a lot of support for this. So I don't know how you all feel. You can certainly provide your feedback on that as I explain what we're planning to do. The first thing we're going to target is the format of materials. So for example, if there's someone who, for whatever reason in the past, had used special collections, or what would something else be, Sam, they might have used? Miscellaneous, maybe, for DVDs, just because they had several different circ rules, correct? Okay. Sam from Swan Member Services, our expert on circ rules. I'll be consulting her a few times throughout this presentation. Thank you, Sam. So what we'd like to do now, though, is to move those libraries who were using those other I-types to be using the correct format I-type. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to tackle. One of the reasons is because the format icons in Enterprise are driven by the I-type. Now, that being said, we are looking at some other options for how to populate those format icons, but regardless of that, we want to get this other data standardized so that moving forward, depending what other capabilities we might have for using the data, it'll be cleaner and more standardized. So right now, though, the types are populating that format icon. So when you occasionally see maybe a DVD, and there might have been a library who had been using special collections, and if they were the first one who added their item, you're going to see the special collections icon. So we want to get that kind of thing cleaned up. So what I'm going to do, along with Sam, is be working with those libraries. And if you want to be proactive, like I'm going to have to go through and do some research, but if you want to be proactive and you know that you have a situation like this, please feel free to submit a ticket or contact me directly, and we'll get the ball rolling with that, okay? But it's going to benefit everyone to get this standardized. So that's the first thing. Did anyone have any questions on that? Yes?
I currently have my juvenile holiday books, which are a different loan in special collections.
Okay.
It's also the only way that I can pull out their collections with inventory by special collections, because we can't pull anything out of the call number, and none of the stuff transferred into the, into the extended information area. So I'm really grappling with this. That is a different loan rule than my other stuff. Is that still valid to use special collection for that, or is that not?
Do you want to weigh in on that, Sam? Would that be?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is a common problem, what you're describing. A lot of people have special collections, and you were using a special collection item type, which made sense. So what we're doing to try to move into a format-driven kind of model is we're creating item types. For example, we have book special. So it'll be a special collection book that'll be mapped to a book format icon, so it'll be accurate in Enterprise. You can still have it circulate however you want it to. It would be the same kind of model, just with the format.
Okay, so special collection is going to be dropped then as a
It's going to be sort of broken out into formats.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Does that sound like that would work for you then?
Yeah, I will have my girls start working on this tomorrow, which is what I was going to do.
Oh.
But, okay, well, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks, Claudia. Yes, Kate?
Can you restate all that for the stream? Because I'm sure that you're Sam and they didn't get your question.
Do you guys just want to use the microphone? I don't know if I can remember the whole.
Yeah.
Claudia, you want to repeat your question?
On special collections that have different loan rules, such as a juvenile holiday collection, will this rule be changed, and how will it be changed if it is?
We're learning. It's a new thing today.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so the answer is that we're going to create some format-driven special collection item types, such as book special, DVD special, that kind of thing. And we can also help you do some cleanup also.
Okay, thanks. Bear with us as we learn to use this new format for cataloging user groups. Okay, can you hear me okay now? Okay. So that's the direction we're going to be moving in. We have seen, The DVD and Blu-ray is where we've been getting a lot of feedback, where it might just be one quirky item type in there. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to tackle. Now, on a related note, we are recommending that you move to using those box set I-types. And the reason we're recommending this is because it does drive circulation. So if your library, say if you're just using DVD because all your DVDs circulate the same, but jump in if I explain this incorrectly. But then your item gets sent to another library and they are using box set for their loan rules, and they use DVD for 3 days, I'm just making that up. They need to override that in order to make it circ right. So, there is currently a solution, they can override it, but we really would like to move everyone to using the box set I-types for those box sets. It's going to make it easier for everyone all around. This will be an ongoing process because I know this one's going to be a little more challenging for some people. We will be able to help you with cleanup, but it will depend on how your box sets are identified. Like if you have TV series in the call number, we've started working a little bit with API, so we'd be able to generate a list of the item barcodes, and I could run them through Item Group Editor here to change your I-type. And of course, Sam would need to configure your I-type with the correct loan rules. So this is a direction we want to be moving in. If you have specific concerns about your library, we can discuss that individually later. But I just want to make you aware that this is the direction we think that we should be moving in, just with sharing everything and the way the loan rules have changed, like with the charging library. Am I forgetting anything, Sam? Okay, no. Thank you. And I think several of you have asked to have the Blu-ray box set up, and some libraries have indicated to me that they don't even have Blu-ray box sets yet, so then that might be a good one. If you do start offering Blu-ray box sets, immediately go to using that I-type. We'll configure that for you. Yes?
Question. What is your definition of a box set? Now, if we have, say, Supernatural Season 2, and there's 5 DVDs in there, would that be considered a box set?
Yes. Remember, starting January 1st, just a refresher for anyone who may not have been at the previous meetings, that's when we had asked libraries to keep all the box sets together and circulate them as, like a TV series is the perfect example of that. We want all the episodes of that season circulated together instead of broken out. We did not require libraries to go back and repackage anything, prior to the first of the year. So those items still exist, are requiring some data cleanup for a better patron experience. But yes, that would be the type of thing we're talking about.
Okay, we were having this discussion at work, and we couldn't figure out which way to go. That's what now we
Okay, great. Any other questions? Yes?
Okay, so if it's a set, it's just a set of 5 discs.
Mm-hmm.
We're all supposed to call that a box set?
Yes, we want to move towards that. Now, of course, if you're not currently using that I-type, we'll configure that for you.
Can you repeat the question?
If you have something that has several discs and you're circulating it as a set, should you be using an I-type box set? And the answer is yes, we want to move everyone in that direction. But in most cases, if you're not already using it, we'll need to configure that for you with your loan rules. Yes?
Right, so if that item type, box set item type does not reflect your loan rule, your current loan rule for that material type, will you be doing like box set 1, box set 2? Because we loan all of our box sets, quote unquote, for 3 weeks, not 2. So that would not be the appropriate item type for our library.
I'm waiting for Sam to turn on her mic.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. That's going to take consultation. So the way the circ map is built, it's a very complicated answer. So just send in a ticket. We'll get it fixed for you.
Like we said, we'll have to configure it for each individual library.
Right. It'll all, have to be library by library.
So the question is, when we have to configure it for individual library loan rules, should we go back and start using it right away? And the answer is no. You would need to consult with us first. We'll get that item type set up specifically with what your loan rules are, and then you can start using it. And then we'll talk about how we might go about data cleanup for your library for the existing items. Yes, Claudia?
I remember correctly that this was going to be a hard and fast rule. When you go through the CERT desk and you get something from XYZ library that's a box set that's going to check out for 3 weeks, they're going to, the bells and whistles are going to go off because they've been told that all box sets will now circulate for 2 weeks.
A minimum of 2 weeks, correct?
This was not the change, making accommodations for other people was not on the table at the time. And is that now on the table, to make accommodations for other people to have box sets circulated 3 weeks? Is what I'm understanding what the accommodation will be.
Well,
No.
the question is, can we make accommodations for box sets to circulate a different time period than 3 weeks, right?
I don't need that,
Okay,
but I want
just want to make sure I got the question.
If that's gonna happen in the future for other people, my circulation department needs to know that so that they don't think it's a wrong circ date.
Right, everything, if people are using the right item type or the intended item type, that should happen. Because it's not been, we're sort of introducing that now and really pushing for it a little bit more. So you're gonna see situations where it's not correct right now, but we're working to go in that direction. And just to clarify, it's at least 2 weeks. So it could be 2, it could be 3.
So we want to move in that direction. So as you can see just from this discussion, that's what we're thinking. In order to standardize it, there are not going to be as many of these challenging situations maybe at the circ desk once it's standardized. Okay, any other questions? Anne?
I know you said box sets, so TV shows, box set, definitely. We're not using that right now, we're just using our DVD rule. But we discovered that, like with Blu-ray, we have Blu-rays, but we were using our DVD feature item type for that. What we discovered is if we get other Blu-rays in from other libraries and we're not using that item type in our loan rule thing, then it will go out to the default, which is like 3 weeks. So I think it's best for all libraries to have, even if they have the format or not, is to have those item rules listed in their table, so that way they're going to go out properly through interlibrary loan. I think we've discovered that as an issue. So now we're switching our Blu-rays to the Blu-ray format to match.
Right, that's a very valid point, Anne, and that's the direction we're moving in. You're right. It really will make things smoother as far as circulation goes. Anyone else with questions on that? Okay, and thanks for using the microphone, Anne. Okay. Last but not least, these are the top priorities that we're going to tackle. There may be some things later, but we can only do so much at once. We have to prioritize. Large type is another one where we see a lot of confusion with the format icon. That one's going to come as far as possibly changing that after we deal with the DVD and Blu-ray, because since we are looking at other options for how to populate those format icons, the large type may not be as big of an issue as it is right now. We're going to be getting access to a test version of Enterprise, and at that point we'll be able to try some of these things. We don't really want to do it right now, to be flipping switches and changing these things, while patrons are searching and things like that. But once we have this test version of Enterprise, we'll be able to test a few of these other options that we're looking at to populate the format icons. So that's why I'm putting large type just a little lower on the list than the DVDs and Blu-rays. But if indeed we do keep the format icons being populated by item type, that would be one that we would eventually clean up. Like if you're currently using book, you're not doing anything wrong, but we probably would standardize that so that everyone's using large type. And that one I think would probably be pretty easy for us to assist you with data cleanup, because as far as I know, the vast majority of you have something in your call number indicating large type. A lot of you do. Okay. Well, then I guess there might be some where we may have to look at some other options. But anyway, that is on the list, but it is a little bit lower. Any other questions on item types? Or thanks, Anne, again, for sharing your experience. Did anyone else want to mention anything that they've noticed as far as how item types are affecting things? Yes?
I was just going to say that good thing is volunteers. If you don't want to wait and you submit it to the system to change and add your loan rule, and they don't have time to do the database cleanup, if you have volunteers, that rapid update by item works very well. I just set up a volunteer on that. She just scans, or I just have a list of barcodes, and she just updates them. So we were able to get through our large type on some things on that.
Okay, thanks for sharing. That's one of the wizards we went over in training. I don't know if a lot of you have had opportunity to use it, but certainly it can be used as Anne describes. So, if indeed you find yourself in that sort of situation, we can do a walkthrough on how to use it if you hadn't used it yet or don't remember, okay? So that's the direction we're going with item types. We've had some little surprises along the way, just things we didn't know, how they were going to work with the new ILS. So thank you all for being flexible. So the next thing on the list is item categories. So as you know, right now, yes.
I did want to say one more thing about, yeah. Exactly. No, I just wanted to say one more thing, because Karen had mentioned that staff can change the due date if they notice it when they check out a patron, but a patron using the self-checkout can't. And so we had patrons through our enterprise training, they were told, basically the main issue is with the TV series, that in our library it's a 3-week checkout. So when they use the self-checkout, if it's an interlibrary loan, they're assuming they're getting it for 3 weeks, and sometimes they're getting it for 3 days or a week, and then they're accruing all these fines and are upset because they don't know why, because they were told it was checked out for 3 weeks. So basically that's the other main reason to be consistent from library to library with these item types, because it does govern how things are checked out, and the patrons are the ones who will complain the loudest.
Thanks for sharing, Joy. Valid point. Okay, so next, item categories. So as you know, right now, we are utilizing 2 item categories. Item category 1, which is that broader format category, and item category 2, which is the audience level. We have 3 more item categories available for use. I'd like to get feedback from you all, and we'll be getting feedback from other user groups as well, like the Discovery User Experience Group. Did I say that correctly? Discovery User Experience Group, CERC Group, and other groups as well, as far as what to do with the 3 remaining item categories. I do want to point out that even if we make a decision on something, we have to keep in mind there's certain things to consider. Many of these item categories, the ideas that we've discussed, like maybe using genre or things like that, there really was no way to map that and convert that, prior to the migration. So keep in mind, genre is one that's been discussed quite a bit, and it's been suggested quite a bit. So we certainly can set that up, but we have to keep in mind you would be using it moving forward, but what about all the existing items? And so that's something, at this point, I don't necessarily have a solution for, but I just want to point out we certainly can set it up, but we're going to have to think about some solutions for that. Another thing to consider with genre, if we don't standardize it, like if there's a lot of customization that you all want, then we might want to consider not that it would just be used more for statistics. If we kept it more standardized, it might be able to use for a facet in enterprise. So these are just a lot of the things to consider. It's not just like, oh, we're going to use item category 3 for genre and turn it on. So these are some of the things that we're discussing. Another one that we've been talking about for a while as a possibility is to use one of the categories for fiction and nonfiction. So again, there would be the issue, and in these cases, I haven't had an extensive discussion with Cersei Dynex yet, but that may be something where they may be able to do a special project to populate the fiction and nonfiction. The genre one, I think, could be quite complicated since everyone does their call numbers differently and whatnot. So anyway, I'd like to hear your feedback on those 2 options as far as what you would think of that, if it was something that other user groups approved of, and if we could find a solution to maybe convert some of the older items as well. Yes, Amy.
Just for statistic purposes, I think having a fiction and nonfiction would be very helpful.
What about for the patron experience?
Frankly, who cares? I'm not exactly sure how that would map out. I imagine that it would help, but they're looking mostly for a title or author. They pretty much know already if it's a fiction or nonfiction.
Okay, Jen,
But I think just for statistic reasons, it would be very helpful.
Okay, Jen, would you mind using the microphone? Thank you.
I was just going to add to what Amy was saying, that I kind of feel that for the patron experience in enterprise, I think it would be I think it's really crucial to be able to choose from fiction and nonfiction, because a patron can search for Greece and then get, literature on Greece when they're actually looking for country information or travel information. So I think to differentiate between the two is really important.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else feel strongly about what we should use the item categories for? Think that's a good idea or a bad idea? Hi, Ann.
Hi, again, I do like the genres, I guess I think it's easier for patron experience to find those out, and if they're, could separate again from fiction from nonfiction combination. But also another one is award books. We have many different award books, especially in the kids, the Blue STEM and all those, and if those could be somehow added to it, I don't know.
Yeah, we used to do like a local subject heading, and I'll have to look at how we can implement something like that in this ILS. Because I don't know that we necessarily want to use one of our 3 remaining item categories for that, but there's probably another solution.
Okay, yeah, because it could also expand into the levels of reading. We have the Lexile and the accelerated readers and stuff like that, that they, might be helpful as
We
well.
have a Lexile product with Cersei Dynamics that we're looking at. It's not quite there yet, though. Hi, Jim.
Hi there. Shouldn't we use mark tags instead of categories and items, just because fiction, nonfiction has to do with the bibliographic item, not with the individual, with the bibliographic record, not with the individual item? Is it if it would pick up like in the fixed field when it's either fiction or nonfiction, is that way we wouldn't have to put it in every single item. The same thing with the award books, is why put it in every single item, have to remember to do that when we can pick it up from a 690 field or a 650 field.
Yeah, we were doing a 690 for that before, so I think we just need to address how to move forward with that. But Jim brings up a valid point, because here's one of the things, whatever we move forward with, if we can find a solution, as he mentions, that's ideal, because otherwise, keep in mind, in order to make this successful, it would need to be entered, somehow into every item. But if we could find an automated solution, that would be better. I'm not sure if that's a possibility with Cersei Dynamics, but it's certainly something that I will bring into the conversation with them about the item categories. So keep in mind, like with genre, the reason that I had said maybe we only want to use it for stats, maybe not use it for enterprise, is because if people were using very specific genres, it wouldn't really be good for the patron experience, if everyone had different versions of Westerns and things like that. But of course, these are just questions I'm throwing out there. No decisions have been made. Yes, Joy?
With the award books, I see the point, but it's like we have it as a subject, so then we can duplicate it in the item, unless you need it for statistical purposes. And if you don't need to break that out by statistical purposes, then I don't quite see the point of putting it in an item category. Whereas I do think we do need the fiction versus nonfiction, because we need that for our statistics. We need to break out fiction and nonfiction. And even if, for us, some of our chapter books, it's nonfiction, but we treat it as fiction, that's our choice. But at least then we're going to be able to get the statistics broken out the way that the state has required us to do so.
And then keep in mind in that case, and I'm just pointing this out because, everyone's going to be involved in this if we move forward with this. Like in Joy's case where she said some things they choose to count them as fiction, not nonfiction, then if we did find an automated solution, she would need to override that in those particular items and put in fiction, if it was somehow able to populate that field automatically. So you each have individual circumstances that.
Don't we already have fiction under location, fiction _A, fiction _J, so wouldn't that just be?
No, it's book. It's book.
Some people
or
do,
book
right?
J. It's not fiction.
Collection. Is it, it's fiction, there's a location, current, home location, there's a fiction _A.
Some libraries do use fiction location, but not all.
No.
Yes, correct. Did you have anything you needed? Okay. So these are conversations we're having. So as you have more time to think about this, please feel free to, send me information. Maybe, go back to your library and talk to people at the library too. We really want to hear what people's opinions are before we make a decision on this. Yes, Ann?
I agree with Jim on the part of the in the field and the record for some of the things, because, that's why all for the public, we used to use a 590 9950 format, and no matter what library put in what, it will just pick out so it will be consistent throughout.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with a large group such as us. But as far as the audience, I know patrons are coming from a facet point of view, not so much the statistics. Patrons able to see the facet of the enterprise, that if they're not sure what it is, you have that blanket search, when you have that open search, where they just leave it vague. They can go limit it by what the word book that they're looking for and bring them all up. When you add it to the bib record, it's very hard they have to know what to look for, so making it a facet from the public point of view is much easier on the patrons side.
Okay. It's possible that could be a facet and not be an item category, right? Do you know? It's something we'll have to look into. Yes, Jen?
Just wanted to comment real quick that in the interim, our library is appending our call numbers with the award type, so Caudle, Blue Stem, Monarch, et cetera, and so forth. So we're appending our call numbers in that way.
Thanks for sharing. Okay. So there's different options out there for how you can customize it locally as well. Item category 1, we have unknown. That's going to be changed to miscellaneous. I just need to set that up, and then everything that's currently in unknown, I'll just be using item group editor to flip them over. That'll be by the end of this week. I just wanted to let everyone know that as well. It seems to be the consensus that would be a little, even though it's not really telling you too much, the patron would rather see miscellaneous than unknown, and perhaps the staff too. Okay, that's what I had on item categories. So I said keep the feedback coming. We're not making the decision this week or anything, and obviously I need to go back with Cersei Dynex and find out what are some of the options for possibly populating those fields, okay? So next on the list, we have known issues, workarounds, updates. So hopefully all of you saw Kate's Swancom, and she sent out, when was that, yesterday? Oops. Oh, the one about, oh boy. Yeah, yesterday. Okay, thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Here we go. Okay, so Kate Boyle sent out a Swancom yesterday about these new buttons that are here on the Swan support site. So we have the FAQ and the known issues. So, make sure before you submit a ticket, check here to see if it's already a known issue. And sometimes, too, it will link up to the specific known issue on the Cersei Dynex support site. So you can go there and you can check and see what the progress is. Sometimes it will tell you the projected date for a fix. Sometimes it won't have that information yet. So we're posting known issues here. Not all of them will have a link to the Cersei Dynex support site, but keep in mind, you all have access to that with your login that you use to access Mentor. So if you ever want to go on there, you can search known issues as well. All of that information is available on the Cersei Dynex site. So we will keep updating this. As you can see, there's a few things listed here now. Like in Enterprise, the ignore initial articles. We were talking about that earlier with the pre-cats. Oh, this is another thing I wanted to mention. No, I'm talking about known issues. So it's listed in here, but when there's very large serial records, Enterprise doesn't display all the holdings. They weren't able to tell us like the exact size. The problem is, so when we first initially found out about this, I thought, oh, okay, I'll just create, for those larger records, I'll create a new 2015 bib record and move everything over. You're not able to move any serials items because they're under serial control. So what I'll be doing is I'll be creating new 2016 bib records for all of those titles that have a lot of holdings attached. In the meantime, they know this is an issue, so maybe they'll fix that, but that's why that's happening. And unfortunately, with not being able to move those records, we didn't think it was going to be too great to have, like the serial record halfway, through June of 2015 and then starting in July of 2015, and then we can't move the existing records anyway. So unfortunately, that's something we have to live with for a little while here. I want to give you an update on that. So this is where you'll go to see known issues. Another one, which a lot of you, we've discussed this in conversations, is that Enterprise doesn't look at our authority file. So that provides some challenges to patrons and staff who are searching. If they're searching the unauthorized form of the name, it doesn't bring you to the authorized form of the name. It's just, that's how Enterprise is built at this point in time. You know, they know that there's a demand for this, so hopefully in the future, this will be available. But one example I'll tell you about is with eResource Central records, you know, we don't create those. SWAN staff or cataloging libraries, we don't create those anymore. They're just supplied by the vendor. So we found that sometimes those have the unauthorized form of the name, and we also can't edit those vendor records. So sometimes that'll create some search challenges because those ERC records are under the unauthorized form of the name and it doesn't lead you to all the other authors' works. So just something to be aware of, and I just wanted you to know that at this point in time, there's really nothing that we can do to fix that. If there was, we would. So that's the situation with that. So feel free to check back here on a regular basis. And then we have our FAQ section, which I'll be updating some more after today's user groups and depending what questions come out of that. But here are the frequently asked questions as well. So we have these convenient buttons for you now on the website. Okay, so I wanted to talk about serials. Also, the subfield Z. You may recall it was doing some weird auto-populating things, okay? So we were able to have Cersei Dynix really pare down that file because the way it was presented was like it was supposed to be this great thing and it would auto-populate it, you know, and you wouldn't have to worry about putting in the subfield Z, but it was kind of doing too much. So if someone had a call number and it had summer in the title, but it wasn't like a summer issue or anything, it would like put that subfield Z in there and you couldn't delete it. So we had them pare down the table, which, you know, the subfield Z reads into to decide what to auto-populate. So it only now should be auto-populating V period, PT period, and NO period. I have heard of a few random instances. Now remember, Cersei Dynix advised us, if you do create your call numbers with like the last name and the first initial V period, in those cases just don't put the period. That's really the best solution. The best solution is to always be using the Dewey class scheme, unless you're an LC library, of course. But I have discovered some few random circumstances where it just won't go away. In that case, I would tell you to change it to as is. That's a class scheme that's in there, but that would really only be an extreme situation. If you're noticing a behavior that's repetitive, let me know because it may be something I need Cersei Dynix to change something in the file again. The reason they suggest not using other class schemes like as is, they say can affect indexing. You know, it might not index it exactly right within all your other call numbers. But I say in one of those extreme circumstances, if you can't get it to work, that's what you would want to do. I also want to point out that unless you're an LC library, you would be using Dewey for everything except serials. Those would be LC per, which is kind of confusing because we use Dewey, but the class scheme is called LC per. So we've had a few questions about that. Anyone have any comments on subfield Z? Have you been seeing a little more, I don't know, expected behavior now instead of all that wacky stuff? Has it been working pretty well for people? Yes, Amy?
I just want to clarify an email that I sent you. Anything that has a line Z, whether it's a periodical or a book, when it came over, the class scheme came over as LC per, even if it was a book. Those should be changing back to Dewey, correct?
You should if you come across those. Now, they had done some data cleanup, so we're going to have to look at that a little more, Amy, because they had reported that they had cleaned that up, but there may be some stragglers out there, so that is on our list to look at. But if you do come across that and it's not a serial, please change it to Dewey. Yes?
I was using the no period after the V, but I found that when I had an author whose first name was the initial and then they had another initial, so for example, last name comma VK, taking out the period does not make it go away if you put anything after the V.
In that case, use as is. I mean, I've come to this conclusion that there's going to be those random things, yeah. So then go ahead. You know, they haven't proven to me that has some major impact on indexing. I think they just want you to keep it as consistent as possible. So, and maybe let me know what your experience is with that. If you notice anything weird, like when you search by call number, when you're doing that, that would be awesome to get that feedback. Okay, anything else on subfield Z? Okay. And you're going to have a chance to share any questions you have or issues that you've been having and tips and tricks. I just have a few more things that I wanted to update you all on. So, deletions. Most of you probably saw that SwanCom I sent out a few weeks ago. As we know, there have been issues when you try to delete an item and it's tied, it has a hold, even if your item is not eligible to fill that hold, or if there's something on order and you don't even maybe use acquisitions, but because there's an open order attached to another item, you're not able to delete that. So these are known issues. We just recently, Bib Services has been working with Sam to develop some workarounds. So we recently figured out a way that if you have one that's stuck because of a hold, please submit it to us on a ticket and we can do something here at the system level. You can also simply check it out to your discard user. That will shadow it or change the current location, the home location to discard. Either of those methods, which were detailed in the SwanCom, will shadow that item and then it will be sitting there waiting to be discarded, but keep in mind it could be some months before it's actually gone because if there's holds and open orders still attached to it. It is hidden, but it still exists. So if you have some, like say you're using the wizard and it gives you that error message, you can't delete it because of a hold, we do have a solution for that now, so submit those. Did you want to say anything about those tied to an order, Sam?
Really, sure. It's just the way the system works, which can be a little frustrating, especially if you don't use acquisitions. If there is one single open order on the title at all, you can't delete any item on that title. So you will see it happen. You feel free to report it. Our best workaround that we can offer right now is the discard user. At least it'll be shadowed. Your users won't see it. Eventually, it'll get caught when that order eventually gets filled. So, yeah.
But yeah, I just want to point out, maybe the order isn't filled for 3 months. So when you go back and look and that item's still there, that's why it might still be there. Yes, Rebecca?
Oh, I was just going to say that occasionally you cannot check it out to this card user. That has happened. I found about 5 of them I reported last week to Angela.
Okay.
And I actually just shadowed the item. I could not, I could change the home location to discard, but I could not check it out to discard. I tried everything. So yeah, I would just suggest that people, shadow those items if they're not able to. So just because it's not, there were things that we had actually placed the item record on a separate bib record, and so it was something that was never going to come, and so, yeah.
Yeah, there's some quirky
So that would
little
be my
things like-
workaround.
That's a good suggestion. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so please submit a ticket if you have some that you're not able to get rid of because of a hold. We'll take care of that for you. So we have one workaround that we figured out. We'll see what happens with the on order. Yes.
So when we check out it's the discard user, I'm just assuming at the end of the month, we clear that out, that all of them are gone. Are we getting a report back that say these weren't able to be deleted? Because I haven't seen anything left in that.
Okay, if there isn't a report currently, but if you go back into that user, it should still be in there if it wasn't able to delete. Yeah, if you find something weird, otherwise let me know, but that's the way it was explained to me how it should work. So you might go back in there and you're like, oh, I had this in there to delete last month, but it might still be in there because it's tied up because of an open order or something. Okay, and then I also wanted to update you. We were talking a little bit about sets previously. So I've been discussing with Cersei Dynick some options for how to clean up those sets, prior to the first of this year. At this point, there's really not a 100% automated solution. We have some SWAN staff here who've had API training, so I have them looking at the possibility of removing the set from any box set when people had put set in the volume field. But there's some other reasons why we still have to kind of look at each title individually, at least at this point, because there are also some items in there where maybe a library was not using the volume field at all, but they're using call number and they have disk 1 and 2. So we need to go in there and manually then add that as a Z subfield so that people are able to get the correct item. So this process is going to take a little while. We are going to chip away at it. I'm going to see if we can do a portion of it automated. Another thing is with trying to strip out season. You know how some people would put season 1? In most cases that will work, but there are some records where you don't want that stripped out. Like say if you have Seinfeld, the complete series, someone may have each season in there, and they may have designated season 1 as far as the information. So we have to be careful. We're going to look at that, how to protect those particular records, if that can be automated as well. But we do need to go back in and populate those that were broken out with discs if it was not in the volume field. Otherwise, that's not going to be a good patron experience as far as the hold. So I just wanted to let you know, we are chipping away at it. We're looking for some automated solutions, but nothing that's 100% yet. But of course, moving forward, since January 1st, we don't have to worry about that because you're all circulating them as a set. Okay, that's what I had for updates. So we're going to open the floor now. Any questions, concerns you have, tips and tricks you've discovered, aha moments, please use the microphone. Anyone?
Okay, we're using the checkout, I put in a ticket for this, but I don't know. So we're using the withdraw, missing, and repair checkout user to check out those, to mask them from the catalog. But we were getting statistics on those. Is there a reason why we should check them out or use the home location? What would be better to use for those particular?
It's always been advised that it's better to check it out to the user, just depending on what you end up doing. You know, because then, say if it's checked out to the missing user and you find it, you can easily just check it back in. Otherwise, you have to go back and futz around with the locations. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, but my
Sam?
circ staff she's not happy that she's got to count all these and remove all those and try to figure out which ones to remove.
I mean, it can be done the other way.
It's probably a couple more clicks to actually change the home location. It might be easier to just bring up a user and scan. There could be a possibility of actually getting statistics more granularly. Yeah. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
either one will work. But I don't remember having a specific conversation about those users. But I just know that typically it's preferable to check it out to the user because then it's easy to check it out to another user or check it back in. But
Yeah, like if the patron finds it on shelf, if it's missing and the patron finds it on shelf,
right,
it would be easier, they just check it out, even if they have to self-check, it would allow them to check it out because that's what we have our
Right.
self-check set up to do. But if it was a home location was, say, missing, that could cause a problem when someone's trying to check something out.
Well, they would still be able to check it out. Location doesn't really have any bearing on circulation, but it's possible that when the item gets returned, if no one catches it, I mean, that could be a problem.
yeah, it essentially needs to have it be not recataloged, but
Right.
pretty much usually go back to tech services and have that changed. Yes.
We had an issue with the missing wizard and the missing position, if you will, from the missing user, sorry. When staff would check, when they would use the missing wizard when they were in checkout, they would bypass the holds, which was good because you don't want to pull up the holds. But then when that item came back through the process, you could not check it. It would not clear the missing status because it wasn't checked out to the user of missing. It was put in the process of missing.
Okay.
And that was confusing the girls. They keep running it through. It's like, why isn't it clearing? And it's really an education need in everybody's library to educate people to say that just because the word, and I wish they would have used two different words, use a missing one and missing two so that you would know where the missing is coming from. So that was an issue that we had, so we just told everybody, don't worry about the holds, just check it out to the missing user, and then that way we can track things better, because then I would have to go in and we'd have to futz with the backside, and then we'd have to clear it again, and then if someone's waiting on it, that's not going to work. But that was an issue that we had.
Okay.
And I just want to alert other people that, there's kind of it's a parallel universe with the same word.
Right. And the missing wizard is part of the CERT group?
Mark item missing.
Okay.
What that should do is check it out to your missing user. So if it's not doing that,
It's not, because it's just it'll shadow it.
it shadows it. It should
But
also check it out. It's not.
It's
Okay.
not.
if
At
you,
least not to my,
if you
it may
see-
check it out, but it won't clear it, because that is a background function that has to be done through cataloging.
it shouldn't change the home location. So if that happens again, can you give me an example?
I will try.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes.
Hi.
Now that we're talking about missing, I have a problem. When I check out items to missing and I want to place a hold on them in case they come back or they're found, I can't, it won't accept the generic tech services number that we use. But I think it will accept my personal patron number. So,
Yeah, it's probably the item type of the item we're trying to place a hold for probably is only holdable to your residence or something like that. I can fix that for you because
Okay.
you're probably using like an in-house profile for your tech services.
Probably.
That's what it is. So we can
Okay.
fix that. Just send
Oh.
those in.
okay,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you.
Good news.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions too that people submitted by email. So one library wanted to know what libraries are doing as far as, are they using the in-process home location, prior to items going out on the floor, things that aren't ready for the shelf yet? What are people doing with that as far as workflow? Dave?
So we started out using the in-process, and when the available soon came out, we switched to it right away, and that's working much better. We do not put on-order items, though, so that's one difference that we have. But it works much better than the in-process, so you don't have to remember to check it out as you're processing the item. So
Thank you.
it's working out much better.
Good, thank you. So that would be, it's an option that's available, but it really will only work for your library if you don't add on-order items. If you don't add the item until like it's right in-house, because what the available soon does is, obviously that's implying it's going to be available like, within a day or two. It also affects the available display of items on Enterprise. So that's why, in the case of Dave, with their workflow, it works out for them. So if you do have that kind of workflow at your library where you're not adding the item until you actually have it in hand and it's going to be quickly going out to the floor, the available soon could be an option for you, but not if you're doing like dummy item, on order records or anything like that. Is anyone else using in process? Oh, here, we have Joy.
We use acquisitions, so we make our current home location, whatever, on order. And so when the item's ready to go out, then we change it to stacks. So we don't do the available soon, we don't do the in process.
So is it typical, like with your workflow, that when you're changing it to stacks, you're cataloging, it's going to go out like that day onto the floors? Yep.
Yeah, basically when, we're entering the item, it is going out that day, generally probably within an hour or so, maybe longer. They don't allow me to do data entry anymore, so I don't know how long it takes. But we don't do that intermediary step.
So for your workflow, depending on how quickly items move out, you could do that as well. Hi, Amy.
We also do acquisition, so when we we do the on-order items, when I catalog it, I change it to in process. Once it's entered with a barcode, it gets changed to stacks, which means that it's going to go out in the day.
Okay. And do you check it out to the in-process user, or are you just changing the location?
We change the location.
Okay, thank you.
We are just we've been using the acquisitions, but we're deciding not to put an item when we order and leave it till we actually get the material in. We've had patrons complaining that the availability tab, when it's there, they think it's available and that it shows on order. So we're trying this. When it comes in, right now, when we do receive it, we are changing the home location from on order to in process for the materials that have currently item records on, but going forward, our fiscal year started July 1st, so going forward, we're trying not to add the item until we actually get the item in. At that point, I don't know if we're gonna decide to, because when you receive the item, we have found out that the order will disappear from the public side, so we have to create an item at that time of receiving, so we're kind of exploring that possibility. So, but we do use the in-process home location, and sometimes we check it out to the in-process user between it going from our department to circulation, so they know where it's at. So we've kind of used both the home location and the checkout.
Okay, thank
process.
you.
We check, we put the location like stacks or whatever in the home location and then check it out to in-pros OLS. The reason being is that I had complaints that if things were given a stacks location, then it automatically got picked up on the holds list. So we have a review shelf and our selectors wanted to be able to review it. So when you check it out to in-process, then you can discharge it very easily and not have to go back to tech services again.
Makes sense. Thanks, Jim.
And to make another point, Jim brought up a good point about the pick list. That's why we have one on order or in process, because then those don't appear on the pick list and staff aren't looking for them. We have them exclude those from the pick list, so.
Yep, that makes sense. I also had a question submitted regarding, did the iMessage of damaged parts from Millennium come over as the CircNote check parts? Now, it's my understanding that the iMessage in Millennium was mapped to the CircNote, but I want to make sure that I understood this question correctly. Was this you, Vicki? Are you asking if damaged parts, that text got changed to check parts? Or were you just asking if the note got mapped over?
The problem comes in at the circ desk when you're discharging and you get all your hold information. So there's a hold to go to Downers Grove, and you say, okay, yeah, send it to Downers Grove, and you put it in transit, and now you've got this note that pops up that says check parts, and that's when, oh yeah, wait, there should be 3 discs here and there's only 2. And you've already set it in transit and trapped the hold. I hate that that note comes last. It comes after all the hold information. And is there anything within cataloging the item or the setup of Cersei that can make something like that come up first and tell us how many discs? We miss that. We used to be able to have a note that said how many discs were included and what to look for, that type of thing, and it's no longer there.
We have asked several times about that.
Yeah,
right?
we're pretty aware that that's very frustrating and not very user-friendly. And it's the way the system was written.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way we can play around with the multi-circ option, but that might be a whole nother project. We're not really sure what we can do, but so far there's nothing, unfortunately.
Is there anything with the number of pieces?
Right, that's the multi-circ. We haven't done extensive testing.
But
with
it's
that.
still, I don't know that it pops up at the time when people want it to.
That's what I can't. I know it was sort of a wieldy message, but I don't remember if it came up after. So we'll let you know. We can come up with something.
So is anyone using number of pieces, like manually entering that? Yeah. Are there other libraries that are putting it like in a staff note or a circ note? Okay. Okay. Okay.
I put it under the number of parts, and then I put a circ note that says how many it is, and it pops up right away.
Okay.
I have a question concerning the extended notes. What's the call number designator in there used for?
That is for any call number that's over 40 characters.
Oh, that's where that
The
lands
overflow
up.
will go into that.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out a way to designate back to the holiday collection. The way we get our information is I had put a note in Christmas, Valentine's Day in the old system, and there's really no place to add that, so that I can use it as a statistical.
You could put it in staff note, or Diane, would she be able to run stats if she put that in that extended call number field, or would it be advised to put it in a staff note field?
But see, if it's in a staff note, it's going to come up, or it won't come up?
It won't pop up.
It won't pop up.
But that you would be able to run a report on that, correct?
Okay.
Right, and you want to make sure you're always using like the same, if it's all caps or,
Right.
yeah.
And then there's the circ note that comes up when we're checking out. Is there not also a public note
There-
that's supposed to show somewhere, and I haven't been able to get that to work?
Oh, there is a public note, and then that should display in Enterprise. So
It doesn't.
Okay, can you send me an example of that
Yeah,
then?
I will.
Okay, I don't know that that's being used a lot, so it'd be great to have an example.
Yeah,
and
I
we'll see
just-
what.
it was
Maybe there's something that just
futzing
needs to
around
be
and-
turned on in Enterprise or something.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to say my experience in dealing with the system at my other library, where we've been on Cersei for a number of years, if something gets sent in transit and then you discover subsequently that you don't actually want to send it, whether it's missing parts or damage you didn't notice or whatever, you can check it out to your damaged account and override that, and it preserves the hold. We have a built-in delay that we don't have instantaneous notification of holds for that reason. We delay it a little bit so that if you need to catch something after it's already in transit, you can do that. And the hold is still there, and the next available item, it just goes back into the list. So, yeah, we run into that with the parts thing. We don't, at that library, we don't use the notes, but a number of other libraries in our consortium do. And so you can actually still divert it and preserve the hold.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
That's a good point.
I have a few more questions that were submitted as well. What properties has anyone changed to make their work easier, like in any of the wizards, that sort of thing? Yes, Joy.
When I'm in modified title, I got tired of scrolling down to see what the title was. So there is a setting, and it's like I have the directions, so if anyone's interested, just contact me, where you can hide the fixed fields. Because basically for what we're doing, we don't really need to see the fixed fields, in my opinion. That's my opinion. So that's the one little thing that I've done. And then also to my staff, the default, when you open up a record and you have all the items on the left-hand side, and then it's expanded and you see everybody's call number and barcode, there is a setting where you can collapse that tree so that only yours is expanded. And so that makes it easier to read and see your items. So if you haven't figured out where those settings are, like I said, give me a call, send me an email, and because I believe I've written up directions for my other staff members.
Why don't you, Joy, send that to me and I'll post on the FAQ.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. Any other properties that people have used to tweak? Yes, Amy.
It's not a property, but I just wanted to go back to changing the location to in process.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful, because I made the mistake. If you change the location to in process, the one right below it is in transit. Do not choose in transit. It causes problems. So just a caution if you change the location to in process.
Thank you, Amy. Another question that was sent in, has anyone found a way to batch print spine labels? Anyone?
We haven't done it. I know there's a way to do it. I went to one library and visited. I don't know if it was St. Charles or another library, but they're batch printing spine labels. They're using something within Cersei workflows to able to do that, and it prints it out, I guess, on a regular sheet of.
I know
5
that
sheets.
there's
We're
some.
gonna try it, but we're trying to, don't want to shock staff too much.
I know that Dave Payson has worked with a few libraries, but some of the libraries also have been, very enthusiastic about exploring this on their own, which has been great for us. There are some options depending on if you share a printer or not. That can affect how you can batch print. Colleen, are you batch printing at Oak Park? Okay. You have a shared printer for all the catalogers, right? So, okay, well, when someone has success with batch printing labels, it would be great if you can share it with the rest of the group. That would be awesome.
Especially if you're using the Zebra printer.
All right. What about Jen? Are you batch printing?
No, we're not.
Okay. I know you've done some pretty extensive templates and whatnot, right?
Oh, we have, but we just haven't had the opportunity to, investigate the batch printing process. So it's on the to-do list.
Oh, we all have a few things on our to-do list, right? Another question I have here are, does anyone have tips and tricks for searching database titles? Do you want to, that was you, right, Vicki? Do you want to maybe grab the mic and explain what your experience has been?
We use acquisitions, and when we are creating the orders for database subscriptions, we know that we had the bib records in Millennium, but now we're having a lot of difficulty finding them in Cersei.
Were those, do you remember if those were Mark Online records?
No.
Okay, okay. Why don't you send me a few examples of specifically the ones that you can't find that you know you had in Millennium, and we'll take a look at that. That is all I have on my list, but more questions are welcome. Not all of them. Thank you, though. Thank you very much. Yes, Joy.
A suggestion to find all your weird stuff. Do, I think it's an item inventory. Get everything in your collection. Let Excel sit for 15 minutes while it brings everything in. And when you scroll down, you will find all your media on demand and everything. Oh, so you didn't have a dummy item? Sorry, have nothing for you.
Going back to the volumes with the Pipe Z, we have it clearly set up if it's a volume and the number or the year. What I'm running into, and my staff keeps coming back to me, is when we have something that's a yearly that has 2 or more volumes to that year that are on a multi-set. I'm finding that libraries are putting the Pipe Z Volume 1, 2015. Other libraries are going 2015 Volume 1. We need to expand the standardization on these multi-volume sets and how we should be entering them. Because, again, most of them have been reference material, so they're not going to circulate or have holds placed on them. But there are a few that do circulate, and we're going to have the whole thing again of everyone's doing their own thing.
Okay, that is something we're looking at. In that case, though, I would say, put the year first. And, oftentimes people will just put the year because that's more helpful usually to, I should take that back. I'm not talking about with volumes. When it's just like the 16th edition or something, it's fine, just put the year, because what I've been told is that's just more helpful to the, like they're not going to really remember if the 16th edition was from last year or whatnot. But yes, yours is a different situation. So we are looking at that. Thank you, good point. Yes?
Also, quarterlies for 1 year, summer, fall, winter, how would that go into the Z field?
Well, we haven't, like I said, we need to come up with a standardized document. We tackled the volume before the migration, but we're going to be doing that. We're going to be moving forward on all that other stuff.
But would it be in the Z field at all, or should it be in the call number portion?
Well, if you want it to, we want it to be able to place a volume level hold, so it should be in the Z subfield, so then someone could place a hold in that particular quarterly, yes. So it should be in the Z portion. But we will definitely get to work on that. That's on our list, but I'll try to push that up a little higher on our list, working on the standardization of that. Hi, Joy.
Hello, yes, ma'am. With the quarterlies, I think Serials basically has a standardization that you use the 3 letters. FA, although we may spell out fall, I don't do a whole lot with the serial, so I'm not sure. But I believe one of the patterns is, like for summer, is the abbreviation of SUM and WIN. So it's like there is already somewhat of a pattern established.
Yeah, if you use serial control, it does sort of force you to have a specific
abbreviated term. So you're correct.
And so in that case,
following that model.
Following that model that has been posted out there, as far as if you're using serial control, there is a model for many variations of the numbers.
Right.
If you don't use serial control, you should still try to construct your call numbers as is specified there, so that everyone be consistent. But I know there are some little holes there that haven't been addressed that we need to take a look at. What else? What else has anyone got? Yes, Rebecca.
I just had a question for statistics for the IPLAR. I know we're looking at this for next year. And this may be something with Blue Cloud, but are we going to be able to know how many downloadable records we have? Because we do have to report that on the IPLAR. Is that something that eResource Central is going to make available to us? Because that is, those item records added, we were reporting those on the IPLAR.
It is my understanding, and I'm sorry, Rebecca Malinowski's not here. She's more of an expert on eResource Central and Enterprise than I. But I asked her a similar question. I believe at this point in time she can only get like the total number of titles, not like broken down by a specific time period. Does that sound correct to you?
Yes. I think
Currently.
we can probably report on total, so that's probably fine.
Yep. She does have access to that information. Renee, did you have a question?
I'm just the microphone person.
Anyone else? We've still got a little time, but we certainly can break early. Yes, Dave.
With the whole Pipe E issue, where it didn't come over in the migration.
AV. I'm sorry.
Or I'm sorry, Pipe E, the bar E.
Pipe E, sorry.
So all of that information went into our local note, and we lost all of those local notes. Is there a way to get that back?
Well, our
So
data
just
loader.
Just an example is our hot copy. It went into local note and overwrote what was there. And then it went back into the call number.
So then what was in there did get popped back into the call number, but you're saying there was information that it overwrote.
Right, and that's what we lost. Is there any way to get that back?
You know, I will double check that the subfield E was a bit of a challenge that happened during the migration. There were some things that were lost because of the fact that it was pushed down to those notes, but I will see if there's a way he can get that information. I'm discovering, new issues that different libraries have depending on how they were using a subfield E. There's a small number of items we're working on right now where the call numbers weren't created correctly for graphic novels because the volume information at that particular library, they were putting it into subfield E, not in the volume field. So there's a few quirky things with subfield E. I'll see if he can. I don't know if that's possible. There's certain things that, because of what happened with subfield E, we just can't get the data back, but I'll see what I can find out. Anyone else? Kate, were there any questions that came in? Okay. Well, if you have nothing else, we can wrap it up. For those of you staying for serials, that'll be starting at 11:15, so you'll get a little more of an extended break. As always, if you're like me, you'll think of something when you're driving home, so feel free to send an email or pick up the phone if you think of something. And again, I want to hear feedback on those possibilities for item categories. Yes, Sue.
I want to take a second to thank everyone for all their submissions to our trouble ticket system and all the communications from all the libraries that take the time to let us know when there's an issue or a merge that needs to be done. One issue that is a known issue on our website is that if there is an item on bib records that need to be merged, we are unable to complete the whole merge. We'll be able to move all the items but the one in transit, but we keep track of them, and then we do finish those in the future as soon as the item's out of transit. Again, thanks to everybody for all their input, and we couldn't operate without all your help. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to thank you for maintaining a positive attitude. Migrations can be challenging, but everyone seems to be, getting their groove and figuring out, how to make things work with their workflow. Keep us posted on any oddities you discover, and thanks for being flexible about moving forward with some of these changes with the pre-cats and the I-types. And I guess that's it, unless anyone has any other questions. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming out today, and I guess we'll see some of you at meetings throughout the day. Thanks.